Hi everyone, you're watching Tamit Saleh's Tennis Forum, and in this video I'm going to be looking at the live rankings and race as it's really hotting up now. Novak seems to be well on his way for a 7th year-end #1, which would be a record. However, Tsitsipas and Medvedev could still have something to say about that world #1 spot. We're going to take a nosedive into that, look at where potentially the next world #1 can come, and also significant dates for Novak in terms of reaching milestones, etc. This is part 2 of a 2-part special. My first part was looking at the potential of Novak Djokovic winning the Golden Calendar Slam. Very interesting topic, which I thought I would never have to talk about in my lifetime really, but it's something that's definitely on. So if you haven't seen that video, do click on the description. I'll put the link down. Do watch that video, but this is part 2, and if you're a stat lover like me, you're going to really enjoy this video, hopefully. As always, before we begin, if you haven't already, please do subscribe, and let's try and reach 100 thumbs up like we always try and reach on the videos. It really helps promote the channel. But yes, we'll begin with the live rankings. So get the old phone out. Novak Djokovic, first place, no surprises, on 12,113 points. Medvedev second on 10,370, so he's about 1,800 points behind Novak. Rafa Nadal in third place on 8,270. Tsitsipas is in fourth place on 8,150. However, he is taking part in Hamburg this week. If he wins the title, he leapfrogs Rafa into third place. He will end up on 8,350. That's if he wins the title. No guarantees there, but it would be a career high for Tsitsipas. I mean, number 4 is already a career high. Potential number 3 on the cards, guys. Number 5, Sasha Zverev on 7,475, only 50 points above Dominic Thiem in number 6 on 7,425. He's really plummeting down the rankings, and at this point I don't see him even qualifying for the World Tour Finals. I see him dropping out of the top 8 by the end of the year, unfortunately, but let's hope that he refines some sort of form going into the second half of the season. 7th place, another career high for Andrei Rublev on 6,255, and wrapping up the top 8, another career high, Matteo Berrettini on 5,488 after his great run at Wimbledon. And actually Roger Federer has fallen out of the top 8. He is now 9th on 4,215, and we'll wrap up the top 10. Denis Shapovalov, another career high on 3,625. So out of the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players occupied their career high positions. Yeah, it's really good to see some of these next gen players coming up. However, let's say the old legends in terms of Novak and Rafa still in the top 3, still going pretty strong. Now we're going to be looking at who can become the next world #1, but I want to look at the race next. The race is something that at this point of the season, for me, it becomes more important than really the rankings, only because this shows you where a player's at in this specific year. As you know, at the end of the year, the race becomes the ranking. So it tells you, a player might be world #3 or world #2 right now, but in 3 or 4 months time they could easily drop down to 6 or 7 in the world. So let's look at the race. Novak Djokovic leads that as well. Unsurprising, he is the winner of all 3 Grand Slams this year. He is on 7,170 points. The only player so far that has qualified for the World Tour Finals. The cutoff at this point is 6,185 points. However, as the season progresses, that number does come down. Second place, Stefanos Tsitsipas on 4,650 points. He could go above 5,000 by winning Hamburg this week. Third is Matteo Berrettini. After that amazing run at Wimbledon, of course, he's been doing well at, pretty consistent at the slams. He reached the quarters of the French Open as well, won Queens. He's on 3,505. Andrei Rublev in 4th on 3,250. Sasha Zverev in 5th place on 3,195. And Medvedev in 6th on 3,020. So, I was saying before, he's world #2, but in the race he's number 6. So very soon, if Medvedev doesn't pick up his results, he could start dropping down the pecking order. Rafa Nadal in 7th place, another player that could start dropping as well. He's on 2,940. And just to wrap up the top 8, we have Hubert Hurkacz, sorry for my pronunciation. He's on 2,190. So this does seem to be quite a bit of a gap in terms of top 8. I think Rafa Nadal upwards are pretty much, more or less there in terms of qualifying for the World Tour final, unless one of them gets injured or really goes down the pan, or someone else just out of nowhere starts getting amazing results. I see those 7 definitely qualifying, and then it's a case of who will be that 8th player. Perhaps even Roger, if he puts in a good run. So looking at the race, it does seem that Novak does have quite a healthy lead. However, he's by no means confirmed of the year-end #1 slot, even though he's won 3 slams. He could even win 4 and potentially not be the world #1. I was looking at other instances where a player held 3 slams and was not world #1. The last thing I found was actually in the women's side, Serena Williams back in 08 and 09, where she had 3 slams but was world #2. So quite a rare thing to happen, but definitely looking good for Novak. Now we're going to be looking at the weeks at #1 and also who can be the next world #1. As of right now, Novak Djokovic is on 329 weeks at #1, which is already a record. Roger Federer, of course, had 310. Sampras on 285. So 286. Sorry. So yeah, Novak already owns the record. If you look at the women's side of things, the overall record is held by Steffi Graf on 377 weeks. So, I mean, look, if Novak's really going for the milestones, that number is quite let's say, a magical number for him. In terms of just milestone numbers, 350 is also quite a number. I've calculated that he needs to hold on to the #1 spot until 6th of December, which essentially is the end of the year. So he needs to end the year as #1, having not lost it, for him to get to 350 weeks as #1. And then, at that point, we can start looking at other dates in terms of 377 and potentially even 400, who knows. But yeah, how can he be overturned? So I looked at what they're defending up until the US Open. This is what we're going to look at in this video, up until the US Open. And then at the US Open we can look again in terms of who gets what regarding their performances. So up until the US Open, Novak is only defending 1,000 points in Cincinnati, as he's the defending champion. So 1,000 will drop. So Novak, if he doesn't play any more tennis until the US Open, but I should add here, there is no ranking points for the Olympic Games. No ranking points at all. So yeah, if Novak doesn't play anything, he will still be on 11,113 points. Remember that, please. So I'm going to look at Novak, Tsitsipas and Medvedev. Those are really the 3 players that are right now competitive for that world #1 spot. Next player up is Medvedev. Now, we all know on August the 5th is the cutoff point for this whole 50% thing of defending points, but it is inclusive of the Canadian Masters 1000. Medvedev is a defending finalist, so even though it's 600 points, he will only lose 300 at the most. In terms of what he's defending 1,000 at Cincinnati, 300 at Canada, and also 300 at Washington for the final. So that's 1,600 points Medvedev is losing compared to Novak's 1,000. Now he loses 1,600. However, the potential is there for him to gain 2,500. Cincinnati, Canada, if Medvedev wins both and then also wins Washington, that's 2,500 points. So it's a net gain of 900 points there. Novak losing 1,000, Medvedev gaining 900 does see him at world #1 before the US Open. Now that is unlikely. Medvedev would have to win Washington, Canada and Cincinnati, and Novak can't win a single match before the US Open basically for that to happen. And it's unlikely also because Medvedev's playing the Olympic Games. It's very hard to see how he's going to have a packed summer and win every single tournament, especially with current form. It is hard courts. He did have a great run back in 2019, but that is literally the only chance Novak loses that world #1 spot before the US Open. So very unlikely. I'm sure you will agree it's not going to happen. Tsitsipas, on the other hand, so he's on 8,150. Let's assume, actually let's not assume anything. he is actually not losing many points at all. So yeah, Tsitsipas is defending 360 at Cincinnati and 150 points at Hamburg, which is half, once again, of the final tournament he's currently playing in. So he only loses 500 points, which takes him to 7,500, meaning he needs to amass something around 4,000 to overtake Novak. Not happening. However, he is playing Hamburg this week, and then he could still play Washington, Cincinnati, and Canada, which takes him to 3,000 points if he wins everything. Very unlikely once again, but even then that doesn't take him to world number one. However, because of the race which we just saw, if he wins Hamburg, he's only about 2,000 points behind Novak. So potential good runs in Canada and Cincinnati could see him really close that race up, meaning for the year-end title it becomes close again. So that's one thing to remember on that side. Medvedev right now, in terms of the threat to world number one, is short-term. Tsitsipas is a more longer term. If he was to take it, it'd be somewhere in October, November-ish time. So Medvedev's window of opportunity is really, this is his last shot really, before he starts defending heaps of points going in, and then it's really unlikely he will catch up to Novak because of the poor start he has. Remember, he is on 3,000 points in the race, Novak's on 7,000, so that's a 4,000 gap. Tsitsipas 2,500, potentially 2,000 if he wins Hamburg. I'm really hoping this is making sense. For me, I find it all fascinating, very interesting for me to look at. So yeah, to cut a long story short, unless Medvedev wins absolutely everything before the US Open and Novak doesn't play Cincinnati, let's say, or Canada or anything else other than the Olympic Games, Medvedev, that's his only chance to become world number one. Very unlikely. So yeah, Novak will 99% sure head into the US Open as the world number one, which would give him another 8 or so weeks, because of course the points would drop after the US Open, so about another 8 weeks, which takes him to about 337 weeks as world number one. And then at the US Open, Novak is really defending nothing. He's defending a 4th round, whereas Medvedev is defending a final, 1,200 points. Tsitsipas is also defending nothing, so unless Tsitsipas can start winning some things now, he could potentially take the number one at the US Open as well, but that's for a separate video closer to the US Open. So yeah, Novak really pretty much a lock now for about 337 weeks. A good run at the US Open for him. Of course, going for the calendar slam, something I feel like a salesman now, something I referred to in my last video, so please do check that out. It is looking pretty good for Novak in terms of weeks at number one. This is something he hasn't openly said for him, it's not a priority anymore. However, knowing Novak as we do, definitely it's on his radar. He did mention after the French Open win that, or just before the final, that Tsitsipas was in the lead in terms of the race. So I mean, yeah, he is following it, and I'm sure if the opportunity arises where he could claim a 7th year-end title, we will see Novak play a few more tournaments. Because right now, yes, he is ahead of Roger and Rafa, but he's still tied on 6 with Pete Sampras. So definitely something I can see Novak going for. He's already the oldest year-end number one, but if he wins it again this year, he just adds another year to it. It makes it a little bit harder to break that record as well. So yeah, that is the live rankings and race. I really hope you enjoyed this 2-part special. Sorry if I've not been uploading as consistently. I do have some personal problems. This is, more, let's say, serious than work or being just busy. I would never be just busy to make this. So I do have a few things going on. So thank you for being patient, to those that have been patient with me. And I'm going to wrap it up there. As always, please do subscribe for tennis content. And let's try and hit that 100 thumbs up as well. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Peace.